G'day folks and welcome to the Vookcast, Australia's Nintendo podcast. My name's Oliver Brandt and in this episode I'm joined by Michael Goncalves.
Hey team.
And Luke Henderson.
Hello there.
We've got a great episode lined up for you, all about a surprising new Doom release, a year-late physical release, a truly shocking twist in the Aussie sales charts, and so much more. But first, as always lately, let's talk about Nintendo Switch Online. So a new Pokemon game was added to Nintendo Switch Online, but it's probably not the one that people wanted. So it is Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red Rescue Team, which was the first game in the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series for the GBA. It was also released alongside Blue Rescue Team, which was on the Nintendo DS, so it is basically the same game. There are still no main series games on Nintendo Switch Online. For Pokemon at least, but it's something, and we don't often get Pokemon games in general. I think there's like 3, just the Pokemon Stadiums and Pokemon Trading Card Game.
And
Nothing else.
Pinball up there too?
No, Pinball isn't there, and I wish it was, because Pinball on the the Game Boy and the Game Boy Advance.
Oh no, sorry, Pokemon Snap on the 64 app.
Oh yeah, Pokemon Snap as well. Yeah. But this is a little bit of a weird one because like there's already a much better version of this game on Switch already in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon DX. So
yeah, I mean that argument sadly doesn't really fly because there's much better versions of every game Nintendo's made on Switch. So
that's true.
I mean it's nice that it's there, but yeah, it just when they put it up there was red. I'm like, where's blue? And it took me a moment to realize that blue was the DS version. I'm like, oh, that's why we don't have it. But yeah, I don't know. It's nice. I'm not playing it. I don't give a shit about the series. But I'm always happy that they're adding more games.
I mean, like I saw the release trailer for it, and I was like, man, I really want to play Mystery Dungeon, and then just downloaded Mystery Dungeon DX to play instead. So, I mean, I guess if that was their strategy, it worked. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, they're good games. I love the Mystery Dungeon series, but I don't know. It's a weird one. And I wish that they would just like get their shit together and like put main series games on there already, because they're just sitting there waiting, you know? And like it would be an easy way to get people to subscribe.
I mean, clearly the Switch doesn't have the power to run these games. So it's going to be a Switch 2 exclusive.
Honestly, I would not be surprised if it was Switch 2 exclusive. But yeah.
I just hope this is not the sign of things to come that Nintendo are back down to single title releases, because we've had a few runs of multiple games and now we're back to just one single random game.
Well, it's going to be Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pass plus Pokemon Pass to get all your Pokemon games added, which that really wouldn't surprise me.
I think in this case, like because the Pokemon company is so weird about things, I think in this case it was just like not having this bundled with anything else. Because it's the same with in the past when like Pokemon Stadium came out, that was like a solo release. Pokemon Snap wasn't, but yeah. I think the Pokemon company is just weird about how their games are released and promoted, which is true in all cases. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it's good to have it there. It's a shame, like no other game in the Mystery Dungeon series can come to the Nintendo Switch Online because it's all like DS onwards.
See, I had a theory about that. I had a thought about that when this released. I'm like, well, remember that flip grip thing that random journalist in America made? Where you put you switch into Tate mode, which is perfect for shmups, but not much else. When they did that, I was like, hang on. If Nintendo made their own version of that, they could put a DS emulator on that, because your Switch would then be vertical. Your buttons would be to the side of the Switch, and the bottom half of your Switch would just be a touchscreen. There's a DS emulator set up.
Yeah, and I mean, like, Nintendo does have a DS emulator, because they did it on the Wii U.
Yeah.
So, they could do it. But then it's like, well, you literally cannot play DS games, like, docked. And I feel like there's a lot of people who would want to play them docked.
Yeah, but 90% of DS games require touchscreen input in some form anyway, so...
That's true, yeah.
Also, it's not a tablet. You could just have them side by side as well. I don't think you need to have it in Tate or Tate mode or whatever the fuck you want to say it is. Like the vast majority of games don't have content that spans both displays, like from top to bottom. They're just like two separate things. So
on the Wii U, on their DS emulator there, because I played Metroid Prime Hunters on the Wii U recently, well, a couple of years ago now, and it had the big screen to the side on the tablet was the main screen, and then off to the right with the smaller screen was the touch screen, because that was just for aiming. So there are ways around it. Mario Kart was the same on the Wii U. So
yeah, I mean, other games have done it as well, like the Mega Man Zero collection in Mega Man ZX Advent was a DS game, and that figured it out kind of. So it's doable. It's just whether Nintendo wants to do it, and I don't know. Nintendo has this kind of thing where, like,
I think
if they don't,
it's doable. It's just if Nintendo wants to do it, it's the most like perfect, succinct explanation of Nintendo.
Honestly, we just need to get that clip and just like play it. Like, we don't have to record another podcast ever. Like, we just play that clip every.
Pull it out of this, and next time Angelo's on, get him to put him in his soundboard, and just have it ready to go.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, more games on Nintendo Switch Online, which is good. There are now more games on the GBA than there were at launch on the NES. So that's exciting.
I mean, it's something. I don't know if it's exciting, but it's definitely something.
Yeah, it is something. Speaking of classic games, we've got a few classic games on the list today. There's a new version of Doom and Doom 2 on the eShop. They're bundled together with upgraded graphics, a new engine, and cross-platform online play. I've completely fucked that up in the notes. Anyway, it includes a bunch of add-ons, a new episode, heaps of new levels, just a whole bunch of stuff, a new soundtrack. It's really, really just a huge, huge upgrade. And the best part is, if you owned either Doom or Doom 2 on any platform, not just Switch, you get this new bundle with both of them for free.
On that same platform. If you own it on
platform.
Switch, you don't get it on PC for free. Just let me clarify that point.
Yeah. So yeah, if you owned either Doom or Doom 2, you'll get it on the platform that you own those things. Otherwise, it's $17.99, which I feel is a really reasonable price for a collection like this.
I mean, even if it only had half the content, $18 for these two games is an incredible buy. The fact that it has so much content is insane.
It really is, yeah. And I don't know. I feel like I don't know. It's weird, right? Because like these games, they're like obviously quite beloved, but like I feel like there are very few games of the era that you could charge like $18 for and people would like readily buy it. But Doom is definitely one of them. And I don't know. They're good though. Marco, you were saying you booted it up earlier.
Yeah, I booted up. The day it came out on PC. Just to check out the new soundtrack by Andrew Holshop. And it fucking rules. It's really, really nice. Yeah, it's highly recommend it if people just want to check it out just for that, because it's it's really, really cool.
And importantly, it's more Microsoft on the Switch.
Yeah,
kind of technically.
Technically, it's ZeniMax. It's ZeniMax, and they're I will say though, it sort of surprised me that this wasn't on the Kex engine originally. Which is what Doom 64 was when they released that a few years ago. The fact that it took them this long to do it is a bit of a strange thing. It's also now impossible for Doom to, be put on any random piece of tech. Can this run Doom? Which is the big thing. I mean, I've seen a pregnancy test running Doom because they're super complicated these days apparently. So I don't think we can have that as a metric anymore, considering as Bethesda do with Skyrim, Doom is now on everything and it's never going to die. So
yeah. But no, I mean, it's cool that it's there. I mean, I'm not like, madly going out to replay Doom again. But when the mood strikes, I'll have these nice new versions to play.
I still remember getting kicked out of the computer classroom in year 7 of high school because we put Doom, the shareware version of Doom, on the system, and we were playing it in the LAN, and the teacher didn't like that we were playing a very dangerous and horror-filled game, so we got kicked out of the computer classroom. I've dated myself because I said it was a shareware game.
Yeah, you really have dated yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty awesome. I think the cross-platform deathmatch and co-op is really, really cool. Everyone can just get online and just rock out with everyone. And the new accessibility options are also great for people who need them, because why not?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's an overtly positive thing. Like, there are no negatives to this release, which is a surprise.
And it isn't one of those. At least I'm not sure what it's like. I guess it didn't really exist on Switch, but on PC at least, you don't lose the original version. Like, it's still there. You can choose to load the OG DOS version if you want to.
Yeah, it's basically the way that it works on Switch is that, like, it's a new release, and you get a 100% discount if you owned Doom 1 or Doom 2. So you can play the old version as well if you want. You get to keep that.
But the old version the DOS version, or is it just another upgraded version?
I think it's another upgraded version.
Yeah, I think it was as well.
Another ported upgraded version. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. Obviously, you don't have to have the DOS version on Switch.
Yeah. But yeah, very, very good stuff. Another classic game, kind of, in a way. It's weird, right? The Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster is finally getting a physical release in Australia, which was previously only available in Asia or through the Square Enix store in Europe, but in very limited quantities. So all 6 games are included on the cartridge, and it costs $114.95 at RRP, although JB Hi-Fi already has it for $109. If you're to buy it digitally, the bundle at least, it would be $107.95. So, you know, that's a fair enough price, like an extra $7 for the physical version. Although
I think it's on sale at the moment now for about $85 or so. So
yeah, it's like $86.75 or something.
Yeah,
which is like not enough for me to jump into it, but still. Yeah, the physical release also comes with stickers. So if you're really into stickers,
sick.
That's why it took so long to come here. You know how hard it is to print things these days? To print stickers.
I feel like this is going to be another one of those things where, like, it's probably not going to be super popular in Australia, but a ton of people are going to import it because it's so freaking hard to get, like everywhere else. So it's probably going to sell bonkers, but not necessarily locally. Even,
sure,
you know what I mean?
Sure, the Square Enix US tweeted it out that it was going there as well.
Yeah, but not in
okay, there you go.
Japan. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's good. I'm still like, it frustrates me so much that they're calling this Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster, and it's not a remaster at all. They've just remade all of these games in like the same art style and stuff. But you know, that's Square Enix. They call remasters remakes and remakes remasters. So sure. But I think the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters, from what I hear, are very good. Again, I have not played them because I'm not going to pay $110 to play them. Although I might get the physical. We'll
I mean, this
I was about to say, you might not do it until this comes out.
Yeah.
But this also highlights the difference between two companies. You know, the Final Fantasy games had been on Switch in some form, then they did this version, and Square Enix were like, rebuy. Doom was on Switch. ZeniMax said, hey, we're gonna fix it up, make it even better. Like, you already own it, here's the free update, free version for you. You know, so that just makes me laugh.
But yeah, for those, so basically the way that the Pixel Remaster Collection worked previously is that, like, they were slowly released on mobile and PC over the space of like 2 years, and then like another year or two later, it was like 18 months or so, It released on Switch and PS4 with a whole bunch of upgrades because everybody hated the font in the original version, which is fair because it looked like arse and was tiny and was impossible to read.
Perfect
so
for a
the Switch
mobile
version
phone.
yeah. So yeah, the Switch version does have the improved fonts. And it's funny because like if you go onto like the store or whatever, because you can switch between the two fonts, but if you go onto like the store or like the EB Games page for the new physical version, they only use the improved font, which it's funny because like Square Enix was all in on that other font for like 2 years. But yeah.
2 years until console players got involved.
Yeah.
Like, Square Enix has this weird, I don't know what it is with them. They have this weird, like, they think they know, like, what the best thing is, like, for their retro games, but it's almost always wrong and awful. Like,
Yeah.
what was the tactics game that they released and it had the god-awful filtering on it?
Logo.
It was a Tactics Ogre, and you couldn't disable it, at least initially. Like, I don't know if they've changed it now, you can disable it. It just looked, oh my god, it looks so awful. But for them, I'm like, yeah, this is what the people want, man. They definitely want this awful filtering. And I'm like, do they? I don't know. I don't think they do.
Well, that's the thing, is like it wasn't actually a filter at all. Like they like baked it into the assets in the game, so they can't just like turn it off. They would have to re-render the assets without the filter. But like the characters weren't smoothed like that. Like that's the weird and stupid part, is that like all of the environments are like smoothed and stuff, and then you've got like a few like super crisp pixel characters, and then like enemies aren't, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, why is this a thing? But they've done it before. Like they're well, like Dragon Quest remasters and Chrono Trigger as well on Steam. That has like weird smoothing and like a bunch of weird issues and like missing features that were in previous versions. Like the iPhone version of Chrono Trigger is based on the DS version, but is missing all of the features that were in the DS version. Like,
I think from memory, the PC version of Chrono Trigger is still missing because they've remastered it with all the FMV stuff, but it's still missing one of the FMV videos, like even to this day.
Yeah.
Which is just, what? Why? How easy is that to fix?
Yeah.
You guys are forgetting,
then, like,
the CEO of Square Enix was the guy who was like, oh, NFTs are going to be amazing. I'm going to go all in on this. And he kept on that harp for like 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So clearly the leadership there has no goddamn clue about what is actually decent.
Well, and then that CEO stepped down like a year and a half ago, and then the new CEO came in and was like, yep, I'm all in on generative AI. And it's like, what are you doing? Just pick one person who was like a part of any creative team at Square Enix throughout its history.
Yeah. Like, how many horrible takes can you have in like over CEOs?
It's just, yeah. And I mean, the Square Enix is kind of bleeding money. I mean, we know that they sold like all of their European assets like Eidos and all of that so that they could invest more in NFTs, which is a choice. Like,
I still don't believe they sold Crystal Dynamics with Tomb Raider. Like, that was mind blowing to me. Like, was that not making them money? Did I misunderstand the popularity of the Tomb Raider franchise? Like,
I mean, it was making them money, but like they couldn't follow through on it, right? It was like it wasn't making a lot of money. They just didn't have a plan for it, so they were like, "Oh, well, we'll get rid of it."
That's the most business like fucking reasoning. It's not making us enough money, so get rid of it.
And I mean, the great example for somebody who, and I'm not trying to give Embracer credit here, but somebody who fucking understands that Tomb Raider is popular. Since that happened, since that sale happened, there was the new Tomb Raider game announced it's in development. The Tomb Raider isometric games finally came to Switch after like 18 months of nothing. We got the Tomb Raider the Tomb Raider original trilogies remastered on all platforms, and the Tomb Raider anime, and like a whole bunch of stuff happening for Tomb Raider, and a lot of it seems to be gaining steam ever since Square Enix stepped the hell out of the way. So,
yeah, I mean, Tomb Raider is one of those things where it has like such a legacy, and like Lara Croft is such a recognizable character. that like not making money on it is like just pure like leadership failure. Like you would like any random person could make money from Tomb Raider, like genuinely. Like you could walk into any, like if you owned the Tomb Raider series, you could walk into any bank and say like, hey, I need $100 million so I can fund a game, and they would give it to you, like no questions asked. So like, yeah, it's Square Enix is a choice. It's a company that exists that does things, and then they go all in on like, you know, the Final Fantasy VII remake series, and it's like, well, you know, people don't really play sequels, so expecting, you know, large amounts of growth in between these games when there's like a 4-year gap between them is a bad idea. And then making all of your new games like exclusive to the PlayStation when like people on PC want to play it too, and it's just, and they're all reversing course on all of these things now. They're like, oh no, we need to do multi-platform development for all of our titles now, and it's like, well, yeah, you needed to do that to begin with. But yeah,
it's very much a, hey, we've finally realized people on PlayStation aren't our only market source. We have other people who want to play our games.
Honestly, I think part of the reason is that like Square Enix almost certainly knows what the specs of the Switch 2 are, right? And they realize that they can't just ignore that platform, right? Like the Switch 2 will almost certainly be able to play like games like Final Fantasy VII Remake, because the PS4 could, and the Switch 2 is going to be at least as powerful as a PS4. So like,
we hope.
We hope. But like you just can't afford to ignore that after the success of the Switch. So I think that's like what's spurring them on to like actually think about, you know, multi-platform development, because obviously just signing everything to Sony and, you know, doing nothing else is not working out for them.
And let's face it, Sony themselves aren't exactly in a financial you know, sweet spot these days either. So maybe Square Enix
wild
finally realized,
literally they're one of the biggest selling consoles on the market, and games constantly selling. Just the fact that they're not in a good financial spot is just crazy to me.
Well, like what's wild, right, is that like last year they were saying, oh yeah, no, we've already reached the peak of PS5 sales, so you know, it's all going to be like down here year on year after year. And it's like, what are you talking? It's been out for 3 years. You mean you've already reached the peak? Like this past quarter, like as we'll see later, like the Switch sold 2.1 million units of hardware, and the PS5 sold 2.4 million units of hardware. And like, how is a console that is 7 years old selling roughly the same as a console that is like 3.5 years old? Like that is just bonkers. And I know that part of the reason is the price, right? Is that like the PS5 was already expensive and then they increased the price.
Yeah, like by this time in the market, like any other release period, you would have had a slim console, cheaper consoles, like the prices would have been cut, like, and that, you know, obviously drives forward sales of consoles, but that just isn't happening.
I have a theory on that, and the theory is that because PlayStation and Xbox are hanging on to their last gen efforts, not they're making games for them, but they're you know, supporting them and doing all the bits and pieces with them. So because they're doing that, the game companies are still putting games out on them, and because the game companies are there, people are like, well, I don't need to buy a PS5 because I can get my NBA and my FIFA, FC, you know, every year on my PlayStation 4 still. So they're like, oh, I don't need to upgrade. I think that's
yeah. I think PS4 and PS4 Pro specifically, like, was such an insane seller. Like, obviously, there's so many consoles out there. Like, you just couldn't abandon it. You can't just do a hard cut. That's just nuts. That's just such a large part of your business that you're just putting in the bin. So it's sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy at this point. Like, you have to support it because you have so many people on it. That people aren't upgrading because you continue to support it, and yeah, it just goes on forever.
Yeah.
I mean, let's not forget the fact that Sony also like dumped hundreds of millions of dollars into development of the PSVR 2 and then just did not support it beyond day one. Like, what is Sony doing there, right? Like, I don't think VR is going to be a big thing. I think they probably should not have done it in the first place, right? Like, VR is not the next avenue of gaming. Like some people have been acting like it is for 10 years now. But like, if you are going to do it, at least dedicate any amount of resources to it. Like, there's like 3 first-party things for PSVR 2.
Is there? 3?
I think the issue.
Think so? There's like, I mean, at least 3 games that are compatible with it that are first-party. Because there's the Gran Turismo thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't consider that to be a VR
Horizon.
game. The only thing I know is Horizons. Everything else is just optional.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean sorry. I mean like exclusive stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know.
I think the issue with like, I love VR, don't get me wrong. Like, I was all in, I kickstarted the Oculus, blah, blah, blah. I think it's really cool. But I think the issue with VR is and this is like, I love using this example. It's like growing your hair long. You have to go through that real shit phase before you get to the nice long hair phase. And VR is exactly like that. And VR is currently in that phase where like things are fine. Like, they're okay, but like the expense to buy VR like outweighs what you get from VR. And getting past that point is just super hard. Because like, if I have VR, I don't want to spend all my gaming time in VR. That's just not what VR is about. Because A, things aren't compatible. And B, it's not comfortable enough or like good enough to do that. So you're spending basically half the price or more than the price of a console or a PC to get VR, and you're using it 10 to 20% of the time. So getting past that point that's an insane uphill battle.
Yeah. And I'm not sure that it's one that will ever really be solved. Like, the thing is, nobody wants to strap a big heavy thing to the front of their face and play video games, right? Like, when you can just play it on your TV and play on your Switch, or just like get your phone out.
We need, the Oculus dev kit, and then from that we need to be like Ready Player One Oasis. Like that's the transition that needs to happen. That's the only way that like this will work. Yeah.
Anyway, we've gotten wildly off topic.
I was going to say, so those
wildly off topic on this podcast. Who would have thought?
But yeah, I mean, I think it's good that, like, I don't know, Nintendo hasn't really shown any interest in VR, and I don't think it ever will. I mean,
they showed an interest, but yeah.
But like, it's always just like
in the worst possible way. Like, I can't imagine a worse experience of VR than the Labo VR kits. Just absolutely awful.
I'm sure
have you heard about Virtual Boy?
Yes.
Okay,
that's the thing, is like the 2 times that Nintendo's done VR, it's just been the worst execution possible. So yeah. So we've got a bit of a weird story, this next one, that is just completely unexplainable. So in the week between July 22 and July 28, the best-selling physical game in the entirety of Australia was Everybody 1-2 Switch. So it beat out GTA 5, Elden Ring, EA Sports, College Football 25, and a bunch more. Like, it was the number 1 selling game in Australia that week. The following week, not even in the top 10. So we don't really know what happened. But notably, Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp was also in the top 10 somehow.
I think that's the biggest story, to be honest. I think that's so strange.
And yeah, it's the 7th most purchased game in Australia during that week. But like, so we looked into this, right? We looked into why Everybody 1-2 Switch is at the top of the charts, and there's just no explanation. It's not like it was a slow week for games and there wasn't anything coming out. It's not like there was like a $5 deal, like bargain bin deal at like the Gamesman or whatever, right? Like, there's no explanation. There's no reason that anyone can think of that Everybody 1-2 Switch should be at the top of the charts, especially when like GTA 5 has been at the top of the charts basically always.
Yeah, ever since they started putting the Shark Online cards inside the packet.
Yeah, so basically it's cheaper to buy the physical version of GTA 5 that comes with shark cards than it is to just buy money like the shark cards digitally. So a whole bunch of people every single week buy GTA 5, which is why it's always in like the top 3, even when there's a new game release. But yeah, somehow everybody want to Switch was still above that, and nobody knows why, because it's not a great game.
On a total, like, again, that's going to tangent off here. It's still part of the topic, but why is Plants vs Zombies there? Was that a bundle with something?
Nope.
No.
Okay, that's also one for me. And why is Rainbow Six Siege there? Is that like a, because that's free to play? Is there like a bundle that comes with like operators or some shit that you can buy as well?
There is a physical version of it, yeah.
But they also do some weird promotional things every now and again where you can get like a set of characters and skins and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense at least. This whole top 10 is fucking wild. Like,
yeah, I mean, like, there's the usual things that you would expect in there, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, GTA
like
5 is
Grand Theft
still there.
Auto. Yeah, Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead, always going to be there. Insert sport game of the year is there. Insert last year's sport game on discount is there. That's easy. One type of Souls-like is there. Done.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's the ones that you have to tick off all the time. That's totally fine.
But then just, yeah, everybody 1-2 Switch, Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp, Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare 2. Like, it's a weird list. And like, even in the past where we've seen like deep discounts on games, they haven't risen to number 1, right? They're usually like, oh, we haven't, like, you know, fucking Bayonetta 3 is being sold for $15 at Amazon, so it's like number 9 in the list because a whole bunch of people bought it through there. But this one just, yeah, it wasn't bundled with any console either, and like, even if it was, console sales wouldn't be enough to get it there.
What's really strange, for me, what's strange about it is anytime there is one of those, you know, Big W are clearing out their, like when they cleared out their Wii U games, most of them went down to $5, right? Because they were just getting rid of them. But whenever that happens, whenever somebody sees, hey, oh, my local Big W is clearing out all their games for this price, it hits a Discord server, it hits Twitter, it hits Ozbargain, it hits every platform, and it just spreads like wildfire. It's just the biggest game of whispers in the world, right? And it happens every single time any store does something like this. Even if it's a price error where somebody, instead of being up for $89, they put it up for $8.90, right? Anytime something like that happens, it spreads like wildfire and we find out about it. There's nothing. It's not that we couldn't find anything, it's that there's nothing at all about why this has been selling.
Yeah.
Which is the scary
And as Luke
part
said, like,
about
it gets to us like within moments, right? Something is like posted on Facebook and then it gets to Ozbargain and then somebody in the Discord finds it and then we see it, right? Like, or one of us gets a DM, right? Like, it happens all the time with basically every game ever on sale. And even if it's like just like a $5 discount, we hear about it. Here, there's nothing. And like, even looking back at historical data, we looked through Ozbargain, we looked through, you know, Facebook groups and stuff, and we could not find a single thing. Like, I
mean, Luke's was even tracking the history of how often the game went on sale.
Yeah.
To see, oh, you know, it was on sale like 4 months ago and it was down to like $40, rah. He was tracking it. There was no blips. There wasn't like a random blip for one day that it went super cheap for no reason either. So yeah, it's an anomaly of unknown origins, to be sure.
Yeah. It was like, I genuinely am wondering, like, if the numbers that were given are just wrong. Like, they put in the wrong, like, maybe the way that they sort this out is that, like, they use a particular number and they just entered it wrong. And, like, this was actually, like, you know, Spider-Man 2 or whatever. But I don't think so.
Well, the other thing, too, is that these are generally just physical sales.
Yeah.
So, and again, it's not as if the eShop had dropped the price to $1 or something. You know, it wasn't nobody was redeeming all their gold coins on this. It was just physically only, especially for Nintendo, it's physical only reported. So
yeah,
who knows? Maybe Joe's Discount Chicken and Gaming Emporium went out of business, so they were clearing out all their stock, and for some reason they had 10,000 copies and nobody knew about it except 10,000 of their most loyal customers.
Honestly, like, genuinely, I know that, like, the people that listen to this podcast are, like, some of the most dedicated Nintendo people in Australia. If you were the person who bought 60,000 copies of Everybody Want to Switch, please, like, get in contact and tell us why. Because I want to know why
is this a
this
meme?
happened.
You're like the Burger King Xbox guy that is buying every Burger King Xbox copy.
Yeah, I just get in contact. Or if you bought a copy of Everybody Want to Switch between July 22nd and July 28th, tell us why, because we want to know if this was part of like some coordinated push in a private Facebook group or something, or what happened, because we're completely baffled by this story. And like everybody is, when we've shared this to Twitter, like everybody was like, that's impossible.
I feel like
it's wrong, but yeah.
Yeah, the only things it could be is an error, which I feel like if it was an error, they would have said something about it by this point.
Yeah.
Or maybe there was some type of like viral. This is the thing that doesn't make sense, because if it was viral, like I would probably have heard about it. Some viral like gameplay vid of people playing it, and everyone's like, "Oh, it looks fun," blah blah blah, and everyone got it. But like, we probably would have seen it, unless it's like some real like left of field like YouTube content that would just never come across our desks. I've got no idea.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just completely unexplainable. It just, I don't know. It's the weirdest thing that's happened this year. Like, truly.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen ourselves that outlets around the world have reported on this, because it's such a it's not just a blip. It's a blip in a soundscape where normally blips aren't heard, but this one was so bloody loud it stood out among the crowd. So
yeah, it's just it's incredible. It's as I said, it's the weirdest gaming news to happen this year, and there's been a lot of weird gaming news this year, but this one somehow is still just at the top.
Yeah.
Alrighty. We'll take a quick look at the Nintendo financials, because that happened last week. From quarter one of financial year 2024/2025. It's traditionally the slowest quarter of the year for Nintendo. Although last year was an exception, because they did release Tears of the Kingdom during that quarter.
And the Mario movie dropped at the same time.
Mario movie dropped. So Nintendo had a real good quarter one last year. Not so much this year. But it was never going to be, right? So yeah, 2.1 million consoles were sold between the 1st of April and the 30th of June this year. 790,000 of which were sold in Japan, which is kind of huge. Japan is still just loving the Switch. Like, especially this year, sales have gone up every month, every week in Japan. Like, there hasn't been a big drop off like there have been in other regions. So Japan is still just absolutely loving the Switch. Year on year, the console sales around the world are down 45%, which is not surprising for a console this late in the year, but also Tears of the Kingdom was last year, so it's going to look a little bit worse.
It's the second time this has happened in this same quarter, because the Animal Crossing's COVID spike blew up the numbers that quarter, and then a year later, when that was done, the numbers dropped down dramatically as well. So
yeah, like if we adjust for that, it's probably around like a 20% drop year on year, which is what you'd expect for about this stage in a console's life. But yeah, it does look worse because Tears of the Kingdom was there. Although, you know, as I said, like it's still going roughly toe to toe with the PS5, so you know, good for the Switch, I guess. Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, which released during this quarter, sold 1.19 million units, but it released 3 days before the end of the quarter, so it sold that much in just 3 days. And the Thousand Year Door, which released a little bit earlier in the quarter, sold 1.76 million units during the quarter, which is pretty good for the Thousand Year Door. It's not the best-selling Paper Mario game yet, but it could get close to Origami King. So yeah, good stuff from Nintendo. Well, good stuff for Nintendo. I don't know if it's good stuff from Nintendo. Good stuff from Nintendo would be telling us about the damn console that's coming next, but
I mean, we do have to acknowledge that Endless Ocean didn't break 1 million copies.
Yeah, so I'm not particularly surprised by that, but yeah,
Yeah.
Endless Ocean did not sell more than 1 million copies in its first quarter, which means we will probably never get numbers for it.
We probably will. So there was one game we didn't get numbers for like 2.5 years, and then at the end of the last, not the one just gone, but the one before, we got numbers for game. So
Yeah,
but yeah, it was never going to be a big seller. The first two were never big sellers. So
yeah, it's quite a niche title, and the other thing
Can't imagine
is,
any Nintendo games they could release that would be massive sellers. None at all. So
no.
it's just impossible. Although my link is not working, so.
oh yeah, it's double pasted.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, it's like the link twice.
Yep. Go me. It's fantastic. So yeah, the other thing is that Pokemon obviously still selling very well. But Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, fastest selling Pokemon game ever. It is currently at 25.29 million units. It has likely already surpassed Sword and Shield to become the second best selling games in the series, or if not, will have done by the time the next financials come in. And again, like Sword and Shield has been out for quite some time, so Scarlet and Violet doing that well is pretty intense. Especially given how many. What's that?
I was gonna say, didn't Nintendo do like a repackage of the game in the DLC earlier
They
this
did,
year?
Yeah.
That may account for the shot in the arm for it, but considering this game has been given a fairly decent marketing push for its entire length because of the 2 expansions, it doesn't surprise me that it's at the forefront of everyone's mind. And Sword and Shield's 4 years old now.
5 years. They were 2019.
Oh, jeez, time. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, it's still insane. I mean, they're not the biggest. Is Black and White or Black and White 2 the biggest sellers?
Biggest sellers are still Red and Blue.
Okay.
The originals. Followed by Sword and Shield, Scarlet and Violet now, and then Gold and Silver.
Okay.
But obviously those have had 20 to 30 years to sell, so not surprising.
It's interesting that the numbers have still gone up as much as they have, even in their quiet period.
Yeah. But yeah, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe still just rocketing up. It
Essentially added another million copies in that quarter. Went from 61.97 to 62.9. So 930,000 copies, which is an insane jump.
It is, yeah. Especially in such a quiet quarter.
Have it already.
I'm actually really interested in Tears of the Kingdom being 12 million-ish behind Breath of the Wild. Obviously, it's a newer game. I get it, but still, I thought it would be much closer than it is by this point, to be honest.
Yeah, it's actually kind of weird, right? Because we got it started selling well in the first and second quarters that it was on sale. It sold well, and then basically from then on, it just stopped selling. Even in this quarter, right? It only sold 200,000 copies.
Yeah, I'm literally opening up my sheet.
Yeah,
to pull the numbers.
around 200,000.
Around
20.8 up from 20.61.
So yeah, I don't know what exactly happened with that. It sold a lot at the beginning, but you would expect a game that sells that well to have pretty considerable legs as well, but it just didn't.
So
to put into context, Tears of the Kingdom sold this quarter as much as Super Mario Party did.
Yeah,
which is
and that's Super Mario
fucking crazy.
So by the end of the June 2023 quarter, Tears of the Kingdom had sold 18.51 million, and here we are 1 year later, and it's added 2.3 million to its total.
Yeah, which is just unthinkable for a game like that, right? You would think every year, especially with the holiday period in there would be huge sales, but it just hasn't happened.
I mean, so to give you even more context, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at the end of June last year, 55.46 million. End of June this year, 62.9. It added 7 million copies.
Yeah. And like, we're not saying that Tears of the Kingdom should have added 7 million copies by now, but like, you know, 3 or 4, maybe 5 million would be what you'd expect for a game like this. But like, yeah, it's hard to, I don't know, maybe it's because it's a sequel and sequels rarely sell as well as the original games. Maybe it's just, you know, open world fatigue. Maybe people who bought the first game weren't super hot on it and didn't go for the second. It's really hard to tell. But yeah, it's clearly, I don't know, Nintendo also hasn't been doing like DLC for it because Breath of the Wild did get DLC that get people engaged for a little bit longer.
Yep.
And Tears of the Kingdom hasn't gotten that, and there basically hasn't been any marketing beyond launch either. So yeah, it's a weird one.
I mean, the Zelda movie is now in development, so who knows? Maybe it'll get a shot in the arm 4 years from now.
Maybe.
It'll get a shot in the arm when the Switch 2 comes out and the re-release comes out for it. That'll be new and improved. I swear to God, if they make us pay for that, God damn it, Nintendo.
I'm hoping if they do that, like it's only like a $10 to $20 upgrade and not like a
full price
$90 re-release. But it's Nintendo, so
they unfortunately have a history of making people buy updated versions of their existing games, going from the Wii to the Wii U eShop to the Virtual Console stuff. I mean,
yeah.
And what's funny, Michael, is that, like, you've been begging to spend like $100 on a version of a game that you've
Don't judge me.
For 7 years now. Like that's been your whole thing. But yeah, Nintendo is still doing well, and I think, you know, part of the reason that we haven't seen the Switch 2 is because these numbers keep coming out and keep being really good. If, like, you know, we'd gotten these numbers 2 years ago, we would probably have the Switch 2 in our hands right now. But we don't, so they're just gonna milk whatever they can out of it. Speaking of milking whatever you can out of your customers,
what a segue.
I love it.
EB Games has come up with a new way for you to give them money. It's called EB World Plus, and it is a subscription service. So you can pay $49 a year to get what EB calls a free gift, which is not a free gift because you're paying for it. It also entitles you to a buy 10, get 1 free scheme for TCG boosters, pop vinyls, clothing, and socks. So if you buy 10 pop vinyls, first of all, like, see a therapist. But you'll also get a 10th one, an 11th one for free, as long as you're still subscribed. See, that's the thing, right? Is that you have to be subscribed to do it. So if you buy 10 and then your subscription lapses, you won't get the 11th one until you resubscribe. And they also give you 5% off digital currencies and extra trade-in values, double carrots on all your purchases for whoever cares about that.
Carrots give you a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
I love that they give 5% of digital currencies except for their own store.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Like 5% off discount off like gift cards for EB Games. Like, that's not terrible if you like buy a lot of gift cards for your friends or whatever, right? But like,
yeah, for sure.
Who is this for, right? Like, that's the thing, is like, I don't understand.
I want to be as inoffensive as possible, but it's for fucking idiots. Like, I'm sorry, but do not buy this fucking garbage. It is the most peak capitalism bullshit that I've seen in a long time. Just don't do it. Like, don't be wrong. I'm sure for some people that are really into like TCGs or pop vinyls or whatever, like at some point this makes sense. But like, oh man, it's just really gross, and I don't like it, like, at all.
Yeah. I mean, I think somebody did the maths, and you have to spend like $900 on pop vinyls to get a free pop vinyl, or
I'm sure
most pop vinyls are about $22, $23 these days. So
okay,
you
so
buy
like
10 of them. So about $230. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's to get one like, free pop vinyl, which is again $23. Yeah. So to get your $49 back, you need to buy two and a half free pop vinyls. So you're up at around $600-700 of pop vinyls to get then the free ones to cover your $49 membership.
And like that's the thing ultimately, right? Like the only way that you're going to be saving money on this is if you buy things from these specific categories and also spend $1,000 a year at EB Games. Or $1,050 now, I guess, at EB Games. Like you're not going to make your money back
on these things.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's excluding the stuff that a lot of people buy from EB Games, which is games. So like it's just crazy. Like absolutely crazy.
And like there are ways that this could have been done that would make sense, right? If there had been free shipping included.
Yeah.
Right. For
like
a lot of people
that style thing.
Yeah. For a lot of people that would make sense because free shipping is well, I mean their shipping is kind of expensive. It's like an $8 flat fee if it comes from a warehouse, or like $14 flat fee if it comes from a store. So it can get expensive if you buy a lot of games and you don't have an EB Games nearby, or your EB Games is small and don't often have things in stock. But it's not. It doesn't like that's not even in there. Like there's no free shipping included. Like you don't get early access to any like pre-orders, or like there's nothing unless you buy a lot of pop vinyls. And like everyone I know who buys like Pokemon TCG cards, like they're not going to buy them at EB Games because there's heaps cheaper places to buy them anyway. So if you're buying 10 boosters, you're going to buy them from somewhere that isn't selling them for $9 a pop when you can get them for $6 a pop at Kmart.
Yeah.
Like,
and the clothing and socks side of stuff, like you're just not buying that amount of clothing and socks from eBay. Like that's never going to prop like at all. Like, oh man. And then like the 5% extra trade value, like I've not traded something in for like probably more than a decade at this point. Like is trading still popular? Like I've honestly got no idea. It is.
I feel like the people who spend like $1,000 a year at EB Games aren't the kind of people that are going to trade in their games. Right? Like surely.
Yeah, probably.
So I mean I used to work for EB Games years and years ago, before they were Electronics Boutique back then. And I mate of mine, he manages a store. So I see all this stuff all the time. But there are people that will rock up with, a grotty looking PS4, some controllers that have seen better days and a stack of games and trade them in towards a PS5. I see people that come in with dodgy looking, Xbox One games and trade them in for cash. They get their $60 and they walk out. So people still definitely trade. I mean, if you're trading a lot, which I don't know anyone who's trading more than once, maybe twice a year, the things don't make sense because EB generally do double promotion trades for EB World members anyway throughout the year. The only thing for me that I think this is relevant or decent for is the virtual currencies, because that also includes redemption codes. So you can go into EB Games and buy your Mario Kart 8 Booster Course pack as a code. This gets you 5% off that code. So if you're buying your digital content via code from EB Games, if you're paying $50 and you're saving 5% off every purchase, that could be worth it. But that's even a stretch. So,
but that's still like $500 worth of purchases that you need to make. I mean, I guess, yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, if you do already spend that, then like, sure, like, I guess consider it.
If you're getting your PlayStation Plus or your Xbox Game Pass every year via a code from EB Games, then no, because those are all of $80 or $100 a year, and you get your code and you're
it's
done.
Like at 5% off though, it's like $1,000 to get your $50 back. Like that's $1,000 a year on digital currency.
Which, like, if you're like a Fortnite fiend, sure.
Like if you're purely digital, right, and you're spending and you're buying like $100 pop games, like digital, like that can totally make sense. But
I mean, I easily spend $1,000 a game on digital, a year on digital games, like just through the course of the year, because I buy most of my games digitally. So like, it's like I still wouldn't do this because I'm not gonna like go through the hassle of going into EB Games and.
But it's also, I think the other downside is that throughout the year, there's also plenty of discounts in digital currencies on a million other markets that are more than 5%.
Yeah.
JB, I mean,
Target,
like
Coles,
at least twice a year does 10 to 20% off like eShop cards and
And you also always have those Oz bargain like insano groups that are like, if you buy this gift card and stack it with this other gift card and use this gift card at this area, and you can get like 78.5% off. Like, and if you really want to do that, if you're all in digital, like that's the way to do it, not this.
Yeah.
The only way I could see this working is if you were really, really close with a bunch of mates and you bought TCGs and they bought pop vinyls and somebody else was all digital, and you all chipped in your 10 or 20 bucks or whatever, maybe. But no.
Everyone uses the same card. Yeah, that could work. But
But
surely I feel like that's something that EB Games would crack down on. That would be like...
Care. Well, they might care
they
now,
don't
but
care.
they didn't care.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think they might care with this.
Yeah.
But the thing that does make this worth it, though, is double carrots on every purchase.
Like, that's the thing.
That's up
going to
there.
be infinitely richer now with this promotion. But the one thing that I didn't call out, and it's not in anywhere from EB, and I guarantee it will be in the terms and conditions they'll have sent you in an email that is 900 pages long, is it'll have to be full priced items. You won't be able to go in during their mid-year sale or their Boxing Day sale or their Black Friday sale, whatever the hell sale they're doing, and buy the half price pop vinyls. They definitely will not count towards your 10 total target because
almost certainly not.
Yeah, but they've not said that. Right? There's nothing in their big promotional stuff.
Sorry, if that's true, get fucked. I think that needs to be made very clear if that's the case. Because that isn't just like a little thing you should hide away in the T's and C's. That's something that should be clear, like straight up clear.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. And the only reason I say that is because when I was working at EB, the whole thing with like price matching was it was a very strict thing about price matching. Like we had to call the store and to confirm they had it in stock, right?
Oh.
If it wasn't in stock, we didn't have to price match. My store generally did anyway. We didn't care. But with price matching now is very much the whole. It must be the exact same version, and the store must be within 1 kilometer of the EB Game store in question.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And like Ubisoft don't make that easy because when like Star Wars Outlaws launches, Ubisoft will send EB Games a branded version that will say like Gold Edition, but JB Hi-Fi will have like Smuggler's Edition, and it'll just be like an in-game code that's different, but everything else will be the same. So EB have been doing everything they can over the past 10 years to tweak every single thing they've offered previously in their favor, just because they want to make more money. And the reason why people don't buy from EB Games normally is because they sell everything at RRP, right? Just talking about the Final Fantasy thing, right? $115 from EB Games, $109 at JB Hi-Fi. Most times there's a JB and an EB pretty well next to each other in a shopping center. And if there's not, there's generally one on the way to whichever one you're going to. So every time they do this, they're like, oh no, 115 because that's what the recommended retail price is. It's like, yeah, that's recommended retail, but EB insists on that because they want their money. So EB have been shooting themselves in the foot for years, and I know, again, speaking with my mate, there's been a lot of discussions about how much money they're not making anymore because people aren't buying as many games as they used to. People aren't trading in as many games as they used to. So everything's going against EB. And the fact they think this is a way to get more money back into the company is just astronomically suicidal. There's no other way to say it. It's a stupid thing.
Yeah, like I understand they're diversifying, like back in the day. Well, they're still doing it right now, right? They're diversifying what they sell in their stores with all their Zing shit and all their stuff, right? Which is fine. Like it is what it is. They're selling other things, but this just isn't the way to do it.
Yeah. Although they did make an absolutely hilarious fuck up with this, where they clearly had another loyalty program in the works. I think it was called Level Up or something. It was like EB World Level Up.
Yeah, it's about 2 years before the EB World Carrots system kicked in. It's like really old.
But they clearly planned on resurrecting that instead of this EB World Plus. And one of the things that happened when they made EB World Plus live is that people who subscribed to EB World Plus got an email with a voucher for $10 as a part of this Level Up program. That was like, oh, you're gonna get a bunch of these throughout the year, and it's like, well, this isn't a thing though. They quickly redacted that, said that people could keep their $10 vouchers, but yeah, they clearly were trying something else that would have given you vouchers, and scrapped that and went with this. So yeah, weird situation. But yeah, honestly, like, unless you are buying all of your stuff from EB Games, or like, it just doesn't make sense, right? Like, just do the maths yourself. Like, figure it out. Like, am I going to make my $50 back? And 99% of the time, it's going to be no. Because like, even if like you say this free gift that they give you is worth $30, right? Like, it's not. Because most of the stuff that you can pick is like, you know, a soup bowl or whatever, and they routinely have like, you know, if you spend over $30, you can get this for $10, kind of things. So like,
they would literally, that's plastered across every counter at every EB Games during their mid-year sale that just finished 2 weeks before this promotion kicked in.
yeah, I know. So, I bought one of the soup bowls. I literally got one. I got the Winnie the Pooh one because it only cost me $10 because I bought a game there. And like, that's the thing, is that like, it's not worth $30. But even if you consider that worth $30, like, the maths just doesn't add up unless you're spending so much on digital currency that it makes sense. And realistically, you probably aren't. And if you are, there's better ways to do it. Like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. So yeah, just do the maths and don't buy it. Because you know, you don't need carrots. All carrots do is get you up to the next level. And if you're already spending $1,000 a year on EB Games, like, you're already on level 4 or 5, and level 5 does not give you enough benefits to worry with doing that.
And you only get level 5 for 12 months, then you get automatically downgraded again.
Yeah. So. Anyway, let's talk about something a little bit more positive. So just randomly out of nowhere, Nintendo dropped a big old trailer for The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. We got to see a lot of Hyrule, which, let's just say, for the record, there were a lot of people when the first trailer came out that it's like, oh, well, they're just reusing the map from A Link to the Past. Those people feel real dumb now, because it is not that.
Definitely not.
So yeah, there's a lot of new stuff in this world, and the world looks huge. It looks way bigger than any 2D Zelda game in the past. Like, it's not even close. So yeah, we got to see that. You get to ride a horse, which is very exciting and fun.
Oh, the horse is so cute. I love it.
So
horses, because there's 2 different types.
Horses, yeah.
There's 2 different horses in the trailer, yeah. But yeah, it's super cute. It looks like a Playmobil horse.
Yeah, it does exactly like that. Totally.
Yeah. Which like works with like the toy aesthetic. Like, it really fits well. But the most important thing is that we got to see powers beyond the ability to copy. So we saw previously that you can copy any object or enemy in the world and then summon it later, including, like, you know, you can, you know, put a bed and make a bridge out of beds and all of that kind of stuff.
I gotta say, I feel like the bed is gonna be like the OP object, because in this trailer they are constantly spamming bed like all over the place.
But you know, you can like see, okay, well, there's like a moblin. I'm going to copy that, and then next time I go into a fight, I'm going to summon the moblin, and the moblin can fight for me. You know, it's that kind of thing. But like Link in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, Zelda does have more abilities available to her. And the one that we saw in this trailer, and I'm sure that there's going to be more after this, it's not just going to be these 2 mechanics, is Bind. So Bind is kind of like Magnesis, I guess, also a little bit like Ultra Hand in Tears of the Kingdom, where you can pick up an item or an enemy, and then just move it. So in the trailer we see, you know, she picks up a big rock and then moves it and drops it into a hole that was, you know, in her way, or picks up an enemy and then drops it off a cliff. So it's kind of like, yeah, Magnesis, but you can't like bring it closer to you or move it further away. It stays at the same distance at the same angle that you picked it up. So yeah, it seems really interesting. But the more interesting part is reverse bond, which is I don't know why they went bind and then reverse bond.
No, I kept typing reverse
Like-
bind in my thing, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
so did I. But reverse bond is the opposite, where instead of Zelda picking something up, Zelda allows herself to be picked up by something else, I guess. So if there's a moving object like an enemy or a moving platform, Zelda can use reverse bond to attach herself to that and then move along with that. And like there's obvious things like they show that, there's a platform like high up in the sky that, is over a large gap, and she can like reverse bond to that and then like zoom across the gap and then unreverse bond, and now she's across the gap. But then they showed like, there's a type of enemy that can climb up walls, and Zelda can reverse bond herself to that enemy. And then when that enemy climbs up the wall, Zelda goes up the wall with it, and then she's on top of the wall. So this is going to open up like so many possibilities. I think they even showed like reverse bonding onto a flying enemy, that then like flew off with her. So yeah, absolutely wild mechanic, and it feels very Breath of the Wildy. As does the UI, honestly. If you look at like the adventure log,
Yeah, it's super
stuff.
Breath of the Wildy. Even the
Um,
bind ability like has the same
green
like
glow.
yeah,
thing.
pattern and green glow as Magnesis, like you were saying. Like,
Yeah.
it looks very similar.
I think this was probably developed like in tandem with Tears of the Kingdom. Like these were, ideas. I mean, I would not be surprised if Tears of the Kingdom played with the idea of copying enemies and objects, but they couldn't really do it on that large scale. So having it on this smaller scale is really interesting. But it just means that there's like so many possibilities just from these two abilities that we've seen already. So yeah, there's that. Also, you can change costumes and like make smoothies and stuff. The smoothies are kind of interesting because it's basically just Breath of the Wild's cooking mechanic. You collect a bunch of ingredients in the world and then bring them to a business scrub who will cook up a smoothie for you that has specific buffs based on the ingredients that you give. And yeah, the different outfits, which are all very cute, will give you different abilities and stuff. So yeah.
Oh, and warp points. Great.
Yeah.
No
Just
amiibo
awesome.
required.
10 out of 10. No notes.
Yeah. And at the very end of the trailer, we see her step into some sort of portal that looks like it probably goes to a dark world of some kind. In what's, I think, supposed to be some sort of clear parallel to like the underground thing. So yeah, honestly, like we saw, in the first trailer that we saw, it's like, okay, you can copy stuff, and it's just a Zelda game that is kind of a bit more puzzly, where you can copy stuff and then you have to know when to bring it back. Now it's like this is like fucking Breath of the Wild 3. Because that's what it is. Like it looks like there's just countless
Except
ways.
2D like and less open world and
So-
more
yeah.
like
So-
I will enjoy it.
Breath of the Wild 2D.
Yeah.
I will say though, like, because I have the trailer on for people watching the video, watching the horse stuff again, I'm just enamored with the fact that it can jump up hills, jump up, the little elevation changes. Obviously, since Ocarina of Time, Epona or whatever you call the horse, has been able to jump over fences, which is great. Horses do that, but horses, also climb up, rocks and stuff. So being able to like literally just jump up on those things, because there's nothing worse in the old school Zelda games, the 2D ones or the top down ones, I suppose, when you literally see something and you have to now try and find a way to climb up this teeny tiny little incline to get around to pick up this heart piece or whatever it happens to be. Now, as long as you've got the horse, which you can summon at any point with a carrot that you can, when you replicate, I don't know what we're calling that, when you re-summon, redraw, whatever, put in a carrot, you can summon your horse to you, which I'm very happy with.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see the videos of people dragging one of those spiders across the entire map to traverse like one block somewhere that they need to get over.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like I said it in, a couple of Slacks, my work Slack and then the Vook Slack as well. Like this is going to be like one of those games where like 2 years from now we're going to see like a clip on Twitter of like we're still going to see clips on Twitter of like people just doing the wildest thing and everybody else saying, "Wow, I had no idea you could do that." Just like Breath of the Wild is, right? Like this is going to be one of those games that is still just like just has so many options that people are going to be breaking it for years.
Yeah, I still see clips from Breath of the Wild now about, somebody will freeze a rock in place, then smash it 100 times with their sword, put a bomb down, and then just before, they attach themselves to it and just launch across the map with it. It's like, okay, how the hell did you
people
come up with that?
People doing Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom like tricks where they're like in and out of menus for like a solid 30, 45 seconds, like doing like chaining like 20 abilities to do something is just bonkers. It's so cool to see.
Yeah. And I'm sure that this game is going to be like that too, just on a 2D plane instead of 3D. But yeah, I think like the biggest thing that stands out to me, like first of all, like the story looks like lovely, right? You get to see like a little bit of like conflict between the two species of Zora people.
The fact that there are two species of Zora people.
Yeah, so like there actually was an Oracle of Seasons as well. So it's nice that they've brought those back. But it's like a nice little way to like really spotlight the fact that Zora have changed. Like, they used to be weirdo people that shot rocks at you from the ocean, and now they're like sleek, lovely creatures. But yeah. So yeah, there's obviously some kind of like conflict between them there.
So I didn't realize we had a Zora racist in the chat.
But yeah, I mean, I think we saw like, Gerudo Town, and I think that's really interesting as well because, in other games you've had to, figure out a way into Gerudo Town because men aren't allowed in.
Yeah.
Zelda will just be able to walk straight in.
And it also looks like they've confirmed there is a Kaku wrangling quest, as is tradition in every Zelda.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just like it looks wild. But like if you look at like the screenshots, I mean in the article that I'm looking at here, but screenshots of actual gameplay, they've got like the D-pad, and we see like the wand to the right of that D-pad, but there's still 3 open spaces on the D-pad. Like there's likely 3 more things at least that we haven't seen yet. And that's just absolutely wild because this new ability, the bind and reverse bond, aren't on those buttons. That's a thing that you do with the X button instead. So like
with
there's
try.
still so like there's still more, at least 3 more things we haven't seen.
Sorry, I just in the trailer I just saw Zelda use the bind to push an enemy off a cliff. And I'm like, ha ha ha.
Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah. Zelda's a war criminal.
But yeah, I mean, it looks incredible. And again, I was excited about this when it was first announced, but now I see it and it's like, this may be the best game that I play on the Switch. And like, I did not think that there was like room for such a huge gap. Like that's such a big leap between what I thought of it.
I wonder if they originally wanted to release this with Switch 2 and just plans changed.
I mean, honestly, this game could have been finished last year with how Nintendo is. But then again, it's a Zelda game. Zelda games never finish early. They always leave it to the last minute. I think this would be a Switch 2 thing. I think this is one of those things when they finished A Link to the Past and realized they had all these assets. Sorry, not Link to the Past, Link's Awakening.
Yeah.
I think they had all these assets and were like, hey, let's do our Majora's Mask for this game. What can we do?
Obviously, sorry. Obviously, they've been working on it since then, but I wonder if the initial intention was to release it with Switch 2. Like it was going to be like a launch title, but then
I mean, if Switch 2 was
sort of
out
went
this
bad.
year, then maybe it was supposed to be.
That's what I mean. Like it was meant to be out with that. Like it was probably going to be like a cross-platform game.
Cross-platform, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm super keen for it. And I'm glad that we don't have to spend the entire game in the hood as well, because I think the hooded look is like fine for like the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, for the outset of their adventure. And according to the ESRB rating, you do play as Link like for a bit. So I'm guessing you play as him in the opening moments, and then you play Zelda for the rest of it, which is fine.
Yeah. Like the initial trailer is basically the start of the game.
Yeah. I will say though too, the only thing I want from Nintendo now is to confirm that there will be a Zelda amiibo in this style that matches the Link amiibo.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I want.
Also, horse amiibo.
Maybe it'll be Zelda on a horse amiibo.
Yeah, I mean, give us all three. Give us a Zelda amiibo, a horse amiibo, and a Zelda on horse amiibo.
I mean, Nintendo loves.
I'm so conflicted because like I want amiibo to die, but also at the same time, like I love Zelda amiibo specifically. So, like, give me Zelda amiibo, please.
Especially in this art style, like.
Yeah, it's really nice.
It is perfectly suited for amiibo. Even if they don't make amiibo, just like make like little figures that I will buy.
I mean, but Disney Infinity, when Disney shut that down years ago, for the next 2-3 years after that, the Disney Infinity art style was being used everywhere still on non-Disney Infinity toys. So if the style is good, it will last beyond whatever it was made for initially. I will say, this art style is so cute. I would love to see other Nintendo games get this treatment. I'm not saying we need to see a top-down Mario like this or anything like that, but I just think they could do so much more. And it's kind of weird too how we've seen a lot more of these, not experimental, but like these unique art styles in games from Nintendo this generation. We haven't seen a lot of that in years past. Like Wind Waker was probably the first big one that did it, but even then that was an outlier. Like the next game was not, and then Mario Wonder's the
makes
first
me
game
super sad because I feel like the Wind Waker art style for Zelda specifically is actually super awesome, and I don't really understand why they sort of put it to the wayside, bar the DS games, obviously.
Yeah. But no, I mean Nintendo has been getting like much more experimental with art style, because like if we look at the new Mario and Luigi game, Mario and Luigi Brothership, that's got a really unique art style as well. And I don't know, I'm sure there's more.
Super Mario Wonder?
Super Mario Wonder, yeah.
Yeah, that looks amazing.
All we need now is a new Donkey Kong Country game. And not just Donkey Kong Country Returns HD.
I don't know if they just... Yeah, I don't know what the deal with Donkey Kong is. I don't know if they just don't know what to do with it. Because like I feel like it would be such a slam dunk for them if they just made a new Donkey Kong game. But just
the thing is, right? Like I'm sure like Retro doesn't want to do it anymore, right? Like Retro is probably had enough of Donkey Kong, because that's all they did for like 15 years.
You say that's all they made 2 games. That's not exactly a lot.
I know, but like they made Donkey Kong Country Returns, and then they made Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D. They made
Monster
Donkey
Games
Kong Country
3D
Tropical. Oh yeah, but they still contributed to it. Like they still helped with like that. And like they did Tropical Freeze and then Tropical Freeze Deluxe with Funky Mode or whatever. So like I don't know. It feels like that's what they've been working on for a while. So they probably don't want to do it. But then it's like, who else can? Because like the best 2D platform people are working on main series Mario, and like who else makes 2D platformers like that?
HAL's generally just Kirby and nothing else, except for when they do random mobile games. And then the only other 2D team that Nintendo have is Goodfeel, when Goodfeel do Yoshi stuff.
Yeah.
So
and Goodfeel has been doing more independent stuff lately too. So yeah, it's like who can do it? I mean, like I would love to see like the Mario Wonder teams take on Donkey Kong Country. I would love to see what they can do with that. But like, is it going to happen? Probably not. Or like, I'd love to see the Super Mario Odyssey team or like the Bowser's Fury team like do a 3D Donkey Kong. Like, figure out what that looks like that isn't Donkey Kong 64.
We already perfected that. Thank you.
But yeah. I like Donkey Kong. I don't know. I feel like it's one of the things that like every single Nintendo fan loves Donkey Kong as a character and loves the Donkey Kong series, especially the Donkey Kong Country series. But then it's just like we get nothing for it, just like re-releases.
I don't think we're going to get anything different for a while, especially with the land opening later this year in Japan, and then it opening next year in Orlando. I think we're going to see this Donkey Kong Country Returns art and stuff for a bit longer, sadly.
Yeah. But, you know, there's always the Switch too, right? And like we've seen a lot of stuff get sort of resurrected for the Switch. That we weren't expecting. Like there's a new Famicom Detective Club game coming soon.
Yeah.
You know, another Code came back, which who was expecting that? So, you know, we've seen a lot of things from Nintendo this generation that they wouldn't have done in previous generations just because it's not worth it. But now that they've, you know, proven that they can do something on this scale, right? Like we know that they're looking at smaller games that aren't going to take up a whole bunch of resources, and Donkey Kong Country could be one of those games. It's just finding a team to do it, and like they've been working with a lot of external teams lately, like an absurd amount of external teams.
And so, maybe we'll get a Donkey Konga 4 or DK King of Swing 3 or something like that.
I would play the fuck out of a DK King of Swing 3. I loved that game.
I mean, again, this is again off topic. We probably should move on. But when Nintendo did the Cadence of Hyrule game, where they let another company make the things, there are some indie studios out there that I think would do, you know, a King of Swing type game. Not a DK Math or anything like that, but like take some of the characters and make new entries in older games that just Nintendo aren't that keen on. I think there'd be a big audience for that. So, you know.
Honestly, I've been saying for a while, like let Team Cherry make a 2D like Zelda 2 kind of game.
Team Cherry can't make their own damn game. Let's not get them and Nintendo combined together, because that'll never happen. They'll never
That's a
get
good
a game
point,
out the door.
But I know there are a lot of good, like, you know, who is it?
Hold
the
on
people
now.
who made
Hollow Knight 2 Switch 2 exclusive.
the people who made Penny's Big Breakaway. Who are they? What else did they make?
They did Sonic Mania.
Right. Like, let them do something. Like, they could make a Donkey Kong Country game.
Yeah.
Like, I would play that. Like, Sonic Mania team working on, like, a pixel arty Donkey Kong thing. Maybe with, like, real pixel art instead of, like, you know, weird sprite converted 3D models. Because that would be interesting to see as well.
I mean, as much Mercury Steam, they did really well with Metroid Samus Returns and Metroid Dread. They've got some 2D chops, so they could do some new Donkey Kong. But yeah, there's a lot of studios that we could spend forever talking about. We'd like to see them do things, but as I say often enough, Nintendo will Nintendo. So
yeah, but as I said, like they're very open to working on 2D games, on external developed games now.
Yeah.
So you know, we could see something in the future, and I hope they continue, especially with the Switch 2, to work with companies to create the games. And we know that they've worked with bigger companies as well. Like the fact that Monster Hunter Rise uses the Switch framework for, like, Nintendo's own online framework for its online play, is the fact like they worked together on that game. It wasn't just Capcom doing it. So yeah, hopefully more of that in the future.
Yep.
Let's quickly go over the games we're playing before we get into 20 questions. Michael, what have you been playing?
God, barely anything. A little bit of Hell Let Loose, and that's pretty much it. Not much else.
Fair. Luke, what about you?
I mean, I can finally talk about the fact that I played Outlaws, Star Wars Outlaws. I got 4 hours of that up at Ubisoft a couple of weeks ago. I had a great time with that one. The ship combat is the one thing I was looking forward to, like flying around in space. I adore the Rogue Squadron games, and that's why I hated Squadrons, because EA's Star Wars Squadrons just sucked for ship combat. It just didn't feel right for me.
Isn't that the whole point of the game?
Yeah, but it didn't feel right to me. I just did not enjoy it. Like, it felt wrong. But this one felt more like Rogue Squadron. Like, it's not super technical, but there's enough technicality to it that if you want to lean into it, you can. Also played through Star Wars Bounty Hunter for review, so it was a very Star Wars focused couple of weeks for me. Been playing God of War Ragnarok on stream, and started SteamWorld Heist 2 the other day. So
What are you up to in Ragnarok?
God, what am I up to? Atreyu just came back from visiting Freya for the first time. Like he stuck off for the first time. So
Cool.
Yeah, not a photo. I mean, I played it through it before. This is just for stream. So I'm finally nearing the end of my God of War saga, which is good.
So I can't talk about the vast majority of games that I'm playing, unfortunately, because they are all NDA'd. And there are a lot of games, and in future episodes I'll definitely talk about them. But the one that I can talk about that I just realized has actually come out, so I can talk about it, is the Crush House. So it's a new game from Nereal, who are the people who made
Karchak.
What's that? Karchak and the Reigns as well. And they're really good developers. And obviously published by Devolver Digital because they're basically inseparable at this point. And it describes itself as a first-person shooter. It's basically you select a cast of people to go into like a reality dating show. And then you play as the cameraman, and your audience wants specific things and specific moments. So you have to like sort of orchestrate moments to happen, and then like get candid pictures of those things and like footage of those things happening. It's a really, really clever kind of visual puzzle game where you kind of have to work to your audience's wants and needs. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. Even if you don't like reality dating shows, which I'm not a huge fan of. This game is very silly and very fun.
It's basically what if Big Brother was entertaining.
Yeah.
Also, to be point to Ollie, Nereal is owned by Devolver. They got bought out a couple of years ago.
All right, there you go. That explains why they're inseparable at this point.
Yeah.
I must have said insufferable. They're not insufferable. They're very good. I love the people at Nereal, and if you're listening, please send me more games. Yeah. So I don't think that's on Switch. I think that's only PC at the moment. But
PC only at this point. Most of our games are either PC only and stay there, or they're PC and Switch at launch and they go elsewhere. The fact that this is PC only, it's unlikely to go to any other platform. Likely due to controls more than anything else, but
yeah, it is. Like I'm playing it on my Steam Deck thingy, Legion Go. Steam Deck thingy.
The Legion team just like all sank into their seats.
I'm so sorry. Thank you for sending me a Legion Pro, Lenovo. It's not even a Legion Pro, it's a Legion Go. Oh my god.
I mean, if Lenovo want to send me one, I will get the name right every time I mention it.
Oh my god, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's playable there, but there are like it's very kind of awkward with those controls, so it's definitely better on mouse and keyboard. But that's no slam against the Lenovo Legion Go, which is a wonderful console that I'm enjoying a lot and always get the name right for. It's just the game itself, which is also very good. Again, Nereal, please send me more games.
Yeah, Nereal do make some good games, and the thing I like about them as a studio is they're not afraid to be the weird person in the room, which again for Devolver is a very hard thing to stand out as being weird. But Nereal do. I'm not saying they make weird games. I'm just saying they're happy to embrace the weird. Just this is what makes sense for what we're doing.
They're one of those companies where like they have those conversations like, hey, what if we made this weird thing? And then they actually go and make it, right? They don't say like, no, that would be silly. We're not going to do that. They just go and make it. Like, what if we made Tinder into a kingdom management game? Is like a weird thing that nobody would ever come up with, but that's what Nereal did. And then like instead of dismissing it like everybody else would do, they just went and made it. So
there's a Game of Thrones version of Reigns, isn't there?
There is, and one that's based on War of the Three Kingdoms as well.
So it's a popular little thing that they made. So
anyway, Angelo's not here, but I'm assuming he's still getting his ass kicked in Elden Ring. Just a safe assumption. He wasn't anywhere near done last time, so let's assume that that's still happening. 20 questions. Luke, you are the answer person.
Yes,
my brain is just broken. I've just forgotten everything.
It's a good thing you're not the 20 questions master this week then.
Yeah, for sure. Have you picked a difficult one or an easy one, Luke, do you think?
This is the same one that I was going to do back in like the end of May, early June. And then we just got sidetracked with other things. So yeah, it's a game.
20 questions sponsored by the Lenovo Steam Deck Thing Pro.
That's true, yeah. Although I should point out that Lenovo isn't like paying me to talk about this. They haven't sponsored us or anything. They just sent it for work. It's completely unrelated to this.
I mean, with how often you've messed up the name, they're unlikely to sponsor us now.
They probably are, yeah.
Oh, God. All right. Was this game released on or after January 1st, 2010? Angela's not here to get angry at me saying it, so...
No, it was not.
All right, was it released on or after January 1st, 2000?
No.
Oh, God.
Oh, God. Okay. Same question, but 1990.
Yes.
Okay. So,
Okay,
90s
so-
game.
I knew you'd get there
Jesus,
eventually.
Still gives us 3 consoles, well, and handhelds as well.
NES, SNES, Game Boy Color, 64.
Yeah.
Not Virtual Boy, I'll give you that hint.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Um,
Was this game released on a home console?
Yes.
Okay.
so the more difficult of the 2 options.
Yeah. Or was this game released on a primarily 3D gaming console?
No.
Oh, God.
I mean, that was
I
a
knew it
good
was
way
gonna
to
be hard.
eliminate one single
I
console.
know. I love doing that.
But if it was right, it would have eliminated 2, so...
Yeah, but you could have just asked if it was
Uh,
released on that console.
Yeah, Nintendo 64. I could have just asked that. All right, so NES or SNES? Oh man, this is so many games. It's like the 2 biggest libraries.
It could be Wii or DS, that would be worse.
Yeah, that would be worse.
Let's not, like, you know, try and get to NES or SNES right now. Let's focus on other things, because we're just burning a question if we ask us one of those. Like, we know what it can be, basically. Like, it can be a 2D game.
Cool.
Or, you know, Star Fox.
Was this game developed in Japan?
No.
Is this a licensed game?
Yes.
Ooh.
Okay, that's I'm gonna go with the 0% chance of me getting this game.
Batman and Robin for the SNES. Guarantee.
Is this game a platformer? Oh, here we go.
Occasionally.
Occasionally.
Jesus.
Okay. That's
Okay.
worrying.
Somehow that makes it less clear what it is.
Occasionally.
It could be something that, like, I don't know, has platforming stuff but isn't always platforming. I guess that's what occasionally a platformer means. But,
Trying to think of
games-
like licensed games that came out in the NES SNES area that aren't platformers.
I mean, there's like a whole bunch of sports games, but like they wouldn't occasionally be platformers. But then, oh, yeah, I don't know. I'm guessing if it has a breadth of content, right? Like if it's something that has multiple genres kind of stuffed into it, right? Or at least like multiple styles of gameplay, it's probably not an NES game.
Probably, yeah.
I'm not willing to hedge my bets on that, but I just
No,
think
neither
on
am I.
balance of probabilities,
Although-
it's probably
the fact that it came out in, I guess no, they can't even say that. I was supposed to say the fact it came out in the 90s probably means SNES, but realistically, not really. There's plenty of NES games that came out in the 90s.
Let's just assume SNES for now because that's the
Okay.
most likely option. Or like having said that, when did like Zelda 2 came out? Right, because like that had some platforming to it.
It did, but it's not a licensed game.
It's not.
Oh man.
I think occasionally be a platformer. That's the part that gets me, right? Like, too early for Shrek.
I don't want to ask if it has combat because, like, if it's got platforming, it almost certainly has combat of some variety.
Yeah, I would think so, right? Like at least like enemies that you can like stomp on or whatever, right? Like,
I don't want to ask if it has weapons because it more than likely does. Like, the vast majority of games back then had some type of weapon.
were there like Looney Tunes games or something that like sometimes had platforming and sometimes didn't?
I'm trying to think of like what that could be. Is it like a licensed games that sometimes is like an RPG and has some type of like platforming stuff in it?
I don't know. I'm just like thinking about Luke here, right? He's really into Disney stuff. So what Disney what Disney exists?
Just because it's the weekend of D23.
Yeah. It's a toughie.
What types of questions haven't we asked yet?
You've asked if it was made in Japan, and that's pretty much it in terms of like development side of things.
Okay, was this made in North America?
Yes.
Okay. Huh.
That's licensed. Who was making licensed games back then?
So many different people.
But in North America? What about, is there a Spider-Man game on the SNES?
Yeah,
would
definitely.
surely like be like kind of a beat 'em uppy, but also sometimes have platforming.
Is this game based on a comic book series?
No.
Okay,
And that's
well, that's
10.
Batman gone as well. Oh, we're never getting this.
I guess we can try and peg down like what type of series it is based on.
True.
Is this based on a movie series?
No.
Alright, so it's TV or book. I guess.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else it could be. Maybe like a cereal mascot. That's licensed.
Yeah.
Pepsi
Or like a
Man?
music
Was that-
a music icon. Like the Michael Jackson game.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. So basically, so many things still.
So many things. Is this based on a TV show?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. At least based on a TV show. All right, so more than likely going to be a cartoon. Like, that's just... It's going to be that. It's maybe based on a Disney cartoon. Like a Darkwing Duck.
Looney Tunes.
Or Looney Tunes. Is this based on a Disney property? Oh, what? How is this a complicated question?
Yes.
Maybe it wasn't Disney at the time, but it is now. Like The Simpsons, right? Like,
Yeah, okay. That makes this so much worse.
or maybe he's just fucking with us and added the pause for
Yeah.
effect.
Wouldn't do that.
All right, Disney.
That makes it so much harder though, because Disney owns everything.
I mean, they don't own Looney Tunes, so that helps you out.
It does help us out, yeah. Although with the way Warner Brothers is going, it won't be long.
We also don't know yet if it's a NES or SNES game.
We don't.
Just to help you out,
But
you've
if
got
it's a-
6 questions and a guess to go.
But like Disney TV series, right? Like, I can't think of any Disney TV series that was like, firstly running during the 80s,
90s.
and like secondly, yeah, what I'm saying, like for the NES, right? Like it would have had to have been.
Oh,
running,
for the NES, you mean?
Yeah, probably in the 80s, even late 80s,
That's true.
or anything that like would have been turned into an NES game. Like there was not enough big enough stuff to do that.
Yeah, the vast majority would have been on SNES for sure. So what could there be if it's like a pure Disney property? So it'd be something like Chip and Dale, DuckTales, Darkwing Duck, any of the movies that came out, so like Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Lion King.
Most of those did get TV series as well.
Yeah.
But I think Luke would probably tell us that it was based on a movie if that were the case.
I mean, I'll tell you, The Lion King didn't get a TV series until like 6 years ago.
Okay, so it's not The Lion King.
Got like 7 movie follow-ups, but the TV series didn't start till recently.
Could be Gargoyles.
Could be Gargoyles. Oh, isn't it? We can ask if it has been like remastered since, because like DuckTales and
Oh.
Gargoyles have both been remastered.
That's a great question. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, has this game been remastered?
No.
Okay.
Well, okay.
It's difficult because again, Disney owns everything now, right? Like,
Yeah, and this is the problem. Like, if the pause wasn't for effect, and it was actually thinking about how to answer the question because Disney now owns them, like that makes this so hard.
Yeah. Like even then, like they took over the Fox stuff, but like what Fox stuff would there be? Like back then that got turned into a game other than The Simpsons. Unless it's like some sort of live action thing, in which case we're fucked either way.
All right, is now the good time for the meta question?
I think we've probably named enough things. Yeah. Give it a go.
Yeah. Have we named the property that this game is tied to?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Okay.
Alrighty.
This gives us something, right?
Yeah, it
there's
gives
like-
us something to work on. Alright. Based on a TV show owned by Disney. More
so
than
it's either-
likely on the SNES. Like, I
Yeah. think
think it's pretty safe. Hasn't been remastered, so it's not DuckTales. It's not the. Are we counting when you say remasters? Are we counting like the re-releases, like the Disney Afternoon collection? Is that counting as a remaster? Or are we counting purely like the visual remasters?
I'm not counting it as a remaster because it wasn't remastered. It was just packaged in a collection.
All right, so it could be some of the ones that haven't been actually remastered, just like repackaged.
I know there were some Simpsons games on the NES. I just want to put that out there. Just so we have that.
Oh, fuck's sake.
And
Yeah, there were
probably
definitely
the
Simpsons
SNES
on
as
the
well.
NES. Yeah, definitely. They're definitely on both for sure. Oh man. Okay. We could ask if the property was part of Disney back then.
Yeah. That eliminates at least The Simpsons and anything else that we might.
Yeah. Okay. Was the property part of Disney back when the game released?
No.
Okay. Cool.
So it has to be
Alright,
The Simpsons, right?
Well, look, we're pigeonholing ourselves real hard right now.
I know, but like it was something that we had already named, and we didn't really name them anything.
Oh, true. What have we named?
It's literally just The Simpsons that isn't a part of Disney, but that wasn't a part of Disney, but is now.
Yeah. Because Gargoyles was part of Disney back in the day, right? Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely. We only really named like Chip and Dale, DuckTales, the like Disney movies. Yeah.
It has to be The Simpsons, I think. But then I feel like there were so many NES and Super Nintendo
Yeah,
games.
that's the other part. Now I've got no idea like what it would even be, and it could be on Game Boy.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's home console. No, we said home
it is
console,
home
right?
console.
Yeah, okay. So either NES or SNES.
I mean, there was that Super
this-
Game Boy player.
Okay, how many questions and a guess do we have?
You have 3 questions and a guess.
Okay. Should we confirm that
Okay.
it's based on The Simpsons?
I think
Let's
we
get
need
that
to,
out of
because
the way.
otherwise, because if it's not, then we need to try and remember what the fuck we said, because I don't even remember. Okay, go for it.
Right. Is this game based on The Simpsons?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Oh man, okay. Look, if you don't get it, I'm fine. I feel like we've gotten way closer than I thought that we would,
Yeah.
so that's good. I'm trying to remember what the Simpsons game on NES was called. I remember playing it as a kid. It was fucking god awful. Oh, Bart Simpson versus the Space Mutants?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That does sound familiar.
Did that come out in the 90s? Yeah, that would have come out in the 90s, surely.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think The Simpsons was big enough in the 80s to.
Yeah, so I was thinking, like, they would have had to, like, work on the game, like, immediately as The Simpsons came out to come out in the 80s.
Again, I feel like there were so many. But
Who
that's the
would
only
have
one I can
made it?
really
Who would have made
think
the
of.
one? I can't even remember who would have made them.
What, like Bart versus the Space Mutants?
Yeah, like who would have developed them? No
it
idea.
It was like would have been like an Acclaim thing, right? Like, although I think Acclaim was like mostly a publisher, right? I don't know if they developed much. I don't know.
So 2 questions and a guess.
Yes.
All right. Does this game mainly feature Bart?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I've got brain lock. I can only think of Bart versus Space Mutants. I'm sure there's
honestly-
others as well. I don't know if I can think of another Simpsons game.
Okay. There was like a puzzle game. It was like Krusty something.
No idea.
like Krusty's Fun House.
All right, so okay, I think the last question, because this is really going to fuck us otherwise, is I think we need to use the last question to figure out if it's a NES or a SNES game.
I think so, yeah.
Because if it's not a NES game, then it can't be Bart Simpson versus, unless it came out. I don't think it came out on. Oh shit! Did it come out on SNES?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think we have to. Yeah, I think that has to be it. There's so many things that it could be.
All right. Did this game release on the NES?
No.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I've got no fucking idea then.
Okay.
I don't know what the Bart game on SNES would be. But I'm glad we got this far. I feel like I'm super proud.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't know.
Like there's definitely Simpsons and Bart games on SNES, like hands down. What they could be called?
Yeah.
No clue.
I don't know. Unless it got unless that or like Krusty's Funhouse. I don't know. See, I know that there's an NES version of Krusty's Funhouse, but I'm pretty sure that there's a Super Nintendo version too. But he said it didn't release on the NES, so it can't be that.
Yeah. Also, it mains Bart.
True.
So it has to be like a Bart game. Which, you know, probably 95% of the Simpsons games back then were focused on Bart because Bart was huge.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that.
Oh, it's so close yet so far. This is the worst.
Yeah, the only other one that I know of is like Itchy and Scratchy on the Super Nintendo, but like it can't be that, right? Because
was there a Bartman game? But even then, if there was, I wouldn't know what it was called.
Maybe it's just called Bartman. I don't know. I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
If there is a Bartman game, which there probably is, I doubt that it's just called Bartman. I feel like that's in the era where like you had stuff like, you know, Bart versus Space Mutants, all that type of like bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. There are a lot of games, and like I'm sure I would have played some of them. I just don't know what any of them are.
I'm happy to concede or just guess, you know, Bart-based SNES game, possibly based on Bartman.
Yeah, I mean, ask. That's the best we've got.
Yeah, that's the best I've got. I could not remember this. Yeah, it's some type of Bart-based SNES game, possibly to do with Bartman. That is my guess.
Okay. Released in September 1994, developed by Sculpture Software and published by Acclaim. The only other people doing Simpsons games at that time were Konami. The game consists of 6 mini games, 3 of which are platformers. The other 3 are from the over-the-shoulder third-person view, akin to Mario Kart. The game was released for the Super Nintendo first, and then a few months later for the Genesis or Mega Drive. This is Virtual Bart.
Oh, never in a million years would I have guessed this game.
No, I feel like I remember that. I feel like
Virtual
I remember
Bart.
seeing like the box art.
I'm going to Google this.
Where it's got like very like 90s like Tron.
Oh wow, yeah, it's
vibe.
like hella.
That one right there.
Oh,
You.
you're such an asshole.
Incredible.
Yeah, no, I would have never guessed this.
So there's a game called inside the game, Bart gets trapped in a virtual reality machine. There's Dino Bart, Baby Bart, and Pig Bart. And Pig Bart is themed around Krusty's pork factory, where he has to escape as a pig. Dino Bart is where he's a dinosaur, and the Simpsons, the rest of the Simpsons family are cavemen hunting him down. The game that I remember most fondly is the class picture, where you're Bart and you're throwing tomatoes at your classmates who are in front of the school, and you have to try and get as many as you can within the time limit before the class picture is taken. And if you hit the principal or any of the teachers, you lose. But if you get them all, they have to do a reshoot, and it goes to behind the school, and you've got eggs this time instead of tomatoes. There's also the Mount Splashmore game where you have to go down the water slide, avoid all the obstacles. And then there's Doomsday Bart, which is basically Road Rage, but Bart Simpson themed.
Yeah, I feel like I rented this for the Mega Drive like once when I was like 9 years old.
Look, all I'm saying, I'm proud of us. Like,
Yeah,
that
I mean,
was
we
a
got
hard
as
one,
far as
and
we
we got
did,
very
yeah.
close.
See, I could also have been really mean if you had a guess it. I could have changed it because it's also a sequel to Bart's Nightmare, which is essentially the same game, just with different mini games.
I feel like the pausing on the Disney question really gave us a solid hint, because that was like, wait, there's no real reason to like think about this question.
Well, that's the thing. It's like when you ask that, it's like, well, at the time it was not a Disney game, but now it is a Disney
Totally
game.
fair.
And it's like, I
Yeah.
don't know how to answer that one. And the same
Yeah,
thing with the
totally
platforming, because there are 3 games that are platformers, but there are 3 games that are not. And if you never played
Yeah.
the platformers, you'd never know. So, like, occasionally platform.
Totally fair.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Although, like, coincidentally, 2 Simpsons things in a row.
Again, I've had this literally sitting on my shelf there
I
for
know.
like 2 months now. So,
Wild. But yeah, I mean, it was a good game. And again, pure coincidence that we just ended up with 2 Simpsons games in a row. And didn't guess either of them.
I mean, it just goes to, it's a testament to how many Simpsons games there are.
Yeah.
Like, there's just so many.
ironically, the Simpsons game was the last Simpsons game. So,
That's true. Although they did make the mobile one that was...
I don't count that as a game. And I also don't count the Simpsons stuff in Logo Dimensions.
fair. Alrighty, well that about wraps up this episode of the Vookcast. Be sure to visit the site www.vooks.net for all your Nintendo news, reviews, and everything in between. To keep up to date, follow the site on Twitter at vooks.net, which is all spelled out, or jump on over to our Discord at bit.ly/vooksdiscord. You can find all of our social information and links for all of the stories covered in this episode in the episode notes on whatever platform you're listening to. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you in the next show.